So what do they call you?
Robert Navarro.
Robert, by chance, do you have an alias, a moniker, or anything that you used to go by?
Back in the day, the homies used to call me Pote
What are you incarcerated for, and
from
how
the
long is your
city.
sentence?
It's 64 years and 8 months to life, to be exact. But I rounded off to 55 years to life.
And what are you incarcerated for, sir?
For first degree murder. For the murder of Raul Moreno Jr., which took place in Huntington Park back in the year of 2003. I was 24 years old when I committed my crime.
And I imagine, is that where you're from, Huntington Park?
Well, I grew up all over LA. LA is very all the places that I used to hang out around was in the vicinity of Huntington Park, Linwood, Compton, Lawrence, Paramount. Pretty much, I lived also too in the city of Cudahy and Bell, and I went to school in Huntington Park, a continuation school there, and I also went to elementary and junior high, which was over in the city of Cudahy. But as about 1997, we moved over there to Compton. But during my youth, we in the 80s, about 87, 88, 89, we lived in Watts, which is mostly ran by Bloods out there. It was really, really hectic out there. Yeah, really tough neighborhood.
Did at any point in time did you involve yourself with any type of gang activity out there in any one of these neighborhoods? Because each one of these cities that you're mentioning to me, from what I remember, man, these cities are all gang infested neighborhoods. Compton, Watts, all that area.
Well, there was as I was growing up as a kid, during the times from like, I would say my years as before I was a teenager, there was all kinds of gangs in the different cities. Like for example, Cudahy has Clare Street locals. They got 18th Street there. They had another neighborhood called Live Oak. They had a whole bunch of different neighborhoods, Florencia, um, Bell Gardens locals. They have so many different neighborhoods within that little small little hub of cities. So and then of course when I lived in Watts, my brothers, they were all from a neighborhood called Nuthood Watts, Southside Nuthood Watts. And I was always pressured to join gangs wherever I was at, where I grew up at, wherever I was living at the time. But my thing was not, I was not really interested in that. I came from poverty. I came from poverty, but I came from a mom who had welfare. She had alcoholism problems. And my dad wasn't around. I didn't have no mentors or anything like that. Nobody looking out for me. So I was always like roaming the streets and, just getting into mischief and stuff with no proper guidance really in reality. I would get punished after the fact, when I say I was breaking windows or something, I would get hit as a kid because I got caught doing that. But I was never like pre-mentored, like, hey, don't do that kind of stuff, this.
This call and your telephone number will be monitored and recorded.
I was not properly mentored in the way of, say, pretty much I was a kind of like a wild kid. I did whatever I wanted, and I had older brothers and stuff like that. So, they were doing their thing, and I was doing just being a kid in the streets. I lived in a large, it was a block where there was a bunch of apartments complexes. Some little street named Walker Street. to be exact, you know. And that little street had a whole bunch of apartments, a whole bunch of kids and stuff like that. So I always grew up around seeing drug dealing on that block and people getting shot. There was always a gang war going on with all these. I would always hear gunshots and go run over there and see people laying on the floor shot up. And then I would see people on bikes or on foot walking around and always selling crack. I would just see the little white little rocks in their hands, and police always raiding their houses. So I grew up around all that, watching all of that stuff, and that kind of shaped my mentality as a kid. You know, I started becoming numb to gun violence, and you know, to me it was just another time, you know, just like whatever, you know. Now, so as I went growing up, about 14, I got tired of the situation of not having money and going through the struggles that, you know, my mom couldn't provide for me. So I started selling little baggies of, and you know, then I went and moved up to cocaine and then crack cocaine because it sold more. So I started selling drugs and I started making a lot of money. I started generating money, and sure enough, after that,
This call and your telephone number will be monitored and recorded.
of course, I was living around a lot of gangs. So for the pressure and the intimidation of the gangs around there, I started carrying guns. So I would be chased by these little gang members and stuff like that. So I started packing guns because they were messing with me. So I grew up basically with the mentality of the streets that, you know, don't let anybody ever punk you or stuff like that. You know, don't take nothing from nobody, you know, just stand up for yourself. So I grew up with that hard street mentality. And sure enough, when I was a kid, you know, somebody ran up on me with a gun and I shot him. And that was after that, everything was easy for me. Everything after that was easy to keep doing the same old thing. Now I felt empowered because I had a gun on me. Now I felt that nobody could mess with me. I couldn't, you know, the bullying or anything like that was never going to be because I was always strapped up. So that became a normality for me to carry a gun because I was getting shot at and bullets zinging next to me, and a lot of the times I was feeling more protected with the gun. So, but it also comes with the dangers that, you know, you got to be running away from law enforcement, and you also got to be worrying about, you know, getting caught with a gun, but also you don't want to die. So you take those risks every day in doing what you do, and you get used to that lifestyle, the risky lifestyle, because that's what you got. That's all you have.
How old were you when you caught your crime, sir?
I was 24 when I committed my crime for the murder case that I've been sentenced for. But I got caught 6 years later. I fled to Mexico. And I was out there hiding out over there in our property. We have like a property out there in San Felipe. My family owns like a resort out there. One of my uncles and owns a resort out there. It's called El Paraíso Heat Camp. I was hiding out over there at the time, and then I got into it with my stepdad over some disputes and stuff like that, and I ended up going down to Tijuana. And I was living in Tijuana for, let's say, about 5 years there. And I was just moving around from one colonia to another colonia. That's what they call the little small sects of the city, the different names. So I took all my kids with me, and everybody would just see me with my kids. And they automatically, when people would ask me, like, why was I over there in Mexico, I would tell the law enforcement that I was a tourist, and they would leave me alone. And they see me with my kids. They weren't like really tripping too much on messing with me. They were looking more for like criminals and people like that. They were all by themselves. And so that was one of the pluses of taking my kids with me up there. Yeah.
This incident, man, if you don't mind me asking, going back to it, Who was the victim? What was his name? How old was he?
His name was Raul. His name was Raul Moreno Jr. He lived in the back. He was one of my neighbors, and he was 27 years old, and he part time he had two kids with him. He had some twins, a boy and a little girl. But he was part time custody with him. But he was a security guard. He he worked security and stuff like that. And I really didn't know him as much, but me and him started having problems because he what I was told to me by my baby mama. We lived in those same apartments, and she told me that supposedly she was up talking with her friends, and he came by and started being nosy in the conversation, and they're like looking at him like, "What do you want?" You know, kind of like that. But they used to say hi and talk to him sometimes. So he started hanging out right there, and he grabbed one of her my wife's friends by the butt, and she turned around and said, "Hey, get out of here!" And he went over to her, to the mother of my kids, and she was already pregnant by my second child. She was pretty big. Her stomach was already showing. She was already showing the bulge.
You have 60 seconds remaining.
He came over and pulled her by the elbow and he kissed her and she slapped him and she said, and he rubbed his face and said, "Don't act like you don't like it." And they ran him out of there or whatever. So what happened was that we end up I ended up confronting him about it, and I warned him like I told, "Stay away from my family, dude." So you know, I think this phone call's going to end right. So after she told me that, one day he comes over to my house about midnight and he knocks on my door, and I open my door and he was like surprised to see me, and I tell him, "What are you doing knocking at my door at 12 at night? You know, like, what are you doing here, man?" He had a couple beers on him. He was like kind of like tipsy, and he asked me that if I wanted to drink a beer with him, and if I had something I could sell him. And I told him, "No, I don't got no for you or nothing like that." And I closed the door behind me, and I said, "Hey, let me talk to you real quick. Let's go downstairs." And I talked to him, and I tell him, "What's this? That you're over here, doing all these things. My wife told me and stuff like that you grabbed her and you force kissed her and all these things." And he said, "No, no, she's a damn liar. That's not true. That never happened. Maybe she just wants your attention and this and that." I go, "Look, man, I get plenty of attention to my wife. She don't need no attention." And I kind of gave him a threat, and I told him, "You know what?" I showed him my gun, and I told him, "You know what? Stay away from my family." I said, "I won't think twice to smoke your ass." I told him like that. "Stay away from my family. Don't be. When you see." The only reason why I don't do something to you right now is because, we live right here. We're neighbors, man. Stay away from my family. I told him like that. I'm warning you, man. So he said, "Well, that's not true, whatever." I go, "I don't care. I'm taking my wife's side. That's what she said, and I'm going to take her side over yours." I said, "But just stay away from my family. Stay away from my wife. Don't talk to me. Don't talk to her. We're all invisible to you. Stay away from us." And sure enough, when I would be upstairs and I would see him, always like harassing her towards the laundry mat on the way over there, trying to talk to her. And then sometimes I'll be going to my car and he'll be trying to make conversation.
This call and your telephone number will be monitored and recorded.
And I would just tell him, like, "Stay away from me. I don't want to be your friend. You know why?" And something like that. And sure enough, one day he comes by and me and some other friend, or like a week before I killed him, we were hanging out right there having a couple beers, and I'm a gunsmith, so I fix weapons and everything, and I'm a gun enthusiast. I go shooting all the time, so I also train in tactical training and all that stuff. So I've been doing the shooting thing since I was a kid. I've been shooting for a very long time and fixing on guns and stuff since I was like about 14. So I became very good with all these things, very knowledgeable of weapons and stuff. So I told him, we're right there hanging out with one of my buddies, and he came by, and I had an AK-47 leaned up against the wall right there. And I was showing it to one of my friends, and we had it just right there. And he comes by, and I tell him to leave, and he doesn't want to leave. And long story short, I end up pulling that gun on him, and I clock one round in there, and I tell him to leave, and I push him, and I tell him, get out of here. So he starts taunting me and telling me, F you and this and that, and let's fight and this and that, and I want to bring my friends to come over here and kill you and this and that, watch, you be, and this and that, So he starts being very disrespectful, and I run him out of here, and I tell him, get out of here, man. And finally he leaves. And about 3 or 4 days later, one of the neighbors comes up to me and says, hey, Robert, be careful. Raul showed me a gun, and he told me that you pulled an AK-47 on him and you ran him off. He said that you messed up by using it on him, that now he's going to kill you. And he showed me a black semi-automatic. So I said, oh, yeah? I said, okay. He said, keep your guns close, man, because they knew I used to carry guns. So I said, okay, thank you for telling me. And then the second neighbor, the one that used to drink with me, told me the same story too. He said, yeah, Raul showed us the gun. He said he's going to kill you when he gets a hand, when he can. So, okay, that's already 2 people, and they didn't know about the story, so this must be true. So sure enough, on the day of October 22nd or 24th, I believe it was, 2003, he comes over and double parks in the middle of the street where we're having a party in front, and I just see a black Pathfinder out there with a bald-headed guy in a white T-shirt just mad dogging me. And I'm there just watching them, looking at me, and I'm like, why is this guy staring at me like that? And I'm just wondering, they were just sitting there. And then I seen somebody in the back, which resembled my neighbor. And I said, oh, that's Raul in the back. He got his back up. He's probably going to do what he said he was going to do. So I said, I kind of like walked away, went upstairs, and I went to go retrieve my gun. So I went to go retrieve my gun. I seen the AK-47 there. I said, that's too big. I seen my MAC-10. I said, that's too big. Magazine comes out too much. So I just took the little 45 and went in, put it in my waist, and went downstairs just for safe, just to feel safe. Which I still see those guys mad dogging me. They didn't even notice that I left. And then I just passed by there, and I told my little brother-in-law, which was like about 10 years old at the time. I told him, take my son inside the house. I go, because something might happen right now. I go, take him inside the house. I go. And sure enough, I confronted the guys. I said, what's up? I don't know if, it's proper to say any bad words, but I said, what do you BS mother lovers want? I said like that. I ain't afraid of you, And I said, oh, yeah. I said something like that. What's up? You guys here to smoke me? I'm right here, mother effer, So I'm all up in their face. And I said, and I'm telling him, and then I look back and I tell Raul, don't be bringing your little backup over here. It's between me and you, I tell him. So we start arguing, and then the guy in the car, he just says, hey, I'm just here to drop him off, and this and that, whatever. And sure enough, he told him, I told him, man, you shouldn't even have this guy in your car. He disrespected my pregnant wife and everything. He said, well, he didn't tell me that. So he said, like, hey, man, get out of my car. He kicked him out. He said, I want no problem. So I said, okay, cool. I walked away. And when I was standing right there in front of the house, Raul could have cut to the left, but he decided to go straight in front of me and get about a foot close to me, and then kind of like get close enough to like almost rub into me, and like kind of like in a little sly kind of like kind of like feeling like kind of cocky and and like just kind of showing off. And he said to my wife, hello, Angie, how are you? And I told him, don't say shit to my wife. I told you about that. And I told him, what is this that you're telling my neighbors that you got a gun and you're going to smoke me? I said, I ain't afraid of your gun. Go get that. Go one in the chamber and come and meet me in the back. Go get your rusty ass gun. I told him like that. So I started challenging him to go get his gun, but I wasn't afraid of him. And finally, we met up in the back stairs, and he said, you know what? He said, you got your little gun on you? I said, yeah, go get yours. Put one in the chamber, and I ain't here to talk to you no more. Go get your gun.
This call and your telephone number will be monitored and recorded.
I told him, go get your gun. So he goes, no. He said, I'll fight you. I said, I ain't here to fight. You say you got a gun, you're going to kill me? Go get it. And he came downstairs, taking off his jacket, put his things down, and he came towards me. And he said, go ahead, you got your little gun? He said like that, and I just kind of felt disrespected. And I just pulled out the gun, and I shot him right in the thigh. Boom. And that was the first shot that I fired. I shot him in his right thigh, which I kind of hit him at an angle. He was at a upper stairs, like for about 4 stairs higher than me. So it kind of went in an upward angle from right to left, pierced both his legs, which I didn't know that until I seen the autopsy reports. And then the gun jammed on me, and I thought he was going to like lunge at me and try to wrestle the gun away from me. So my left hand moved real quick in like a reflex because I'm trained. So the gun jammed, I unjammed it really fast, and I fired the next shot. And I thought I shot him in the chest. So he goes forward and falls on his back, does like a half turn and lands on his back. And I just make one step forward, and I fired the other 3 shots to his face, killing him for sure, you know. I stood over him and I shot him 3 more times in the face. And then, you know, my last words for him was, a la verga puto. And I just walked off. And then from there, I go walking out, and I just hear people saying, grab him, detain him, grab him, call the police, but in Spanish. So my wife's stepdad, he's a big Guatemalan guy. He comes by, he says, hey, what is wrong with you? Are you crazy? He tells me in Spanish, and he grabs me by my arm, my right arm. And all I did was I snatched my arm back, and I put the gun to his chest, and I said, no me detengas, cabrón. I told him in Spanish, don't detain me. I told him like that. And basically saying, don't detain me, fool. And he let go of me. And then I just walked away, jumped in my car, and my brother came by, and he saw, like, what the hell did you do? I said, I was already tired of his ass. There's so many damn problems with this guy. He goes, give me the gun. So I gave him the gun. I said, it doesn't have no bullets anyway. Here. So we drove off. I drove off, and he goes, where are you going? I said, I'm going over there to the neighborhood over there with my homies. So I went down over there with one of my friends by the name of Cecilia. And I went down to her house. She lives in the city of Cudahy, which is about a little 15-minute drive from Huntington Park. And I got there, and they're all like, hey, Robert, how are you? I said, oh, I'm okay. And I said, I just killed my neighbor. Just like that. I just told her, and she's all like, well, are you kidding with me? I said, nah, I'm not kidding. She said, nah, I hope you are playing. I said, you sound like so cool about it, you know, like what happened? I said, well, you know, we got into it, and I killed him. I shot him. Are you sure he's dead? I go, yeah, I killed him. I shot him. I shot him a bunch of times in the face. I thought he's dead. And but before, and then we just sat down right there, and we were just talking about my son, and I was looking at her little baby that she just had and everything. And I told her, can I use your phone? And I called a friend of mine, a longtime friend of mine. He's like one of my, he's kind of like a dad to me. He's overseeing me. He's a businessman. He's Palestinian. His name is Elias. And I called him, and I thought I could trust in him. And I called him, and I told him, hey, man, I messed up. I did something over here. I shot somebody, and I need help. You know, I need to get out of here. And he said, what did you do? I said, I killed my neighbor. He said, well, maybe, you know, you could go back and say you shot him by accident or something. I said, no, I shot him multiple times. So he goes, are you sure he's dead? I go, yeah, he's dead. I know he's dead. And then he's all like, man, I go, yeah, I need some money. I don't have no money. I don't have no plan. I just got mad and just lost it, man. I said, I don't know what to do. I said, I can't go back home. So we're supposed to meet up, and what I understood is that through the transcripts and everything, I found out later on that he called Huntington Park Police Department and told them that I had killed somebody. He turned on me, and that he was supposed to meet up with me to drop me off $500, and that was like a very heartbreaking story to me because I trusted him with everything, and it was my trust was broken with him. You know, I love that guy. You know, I would have gave my life for him. You know, put my life on the line, anything for him. And he did this to me, and you know, I learned to forgive him, and I learned to let it go. I still talk to him, and
You have 60 seconds remaining.
we're still friends and we're still close. And he's actually one of my supporters that gives me money and takes care of me and everything. And I'm not mad at him. I don't feel no resentment towards him, and I don't feel no resentment toward anybody who cooperated with law enforcement against me. I'm kind of glad that I ended up in prison, that way I could face my what I did and see the faces of the people that I harmed. You know, I put a lot of pain into people, and I hurt them real bad for killing their son or their brother, and whatever that he was to them, and I feel I'm full of regret for that.
So you say you ended up taking off to Mexico? How did you get there, man?
Um, when I was hiding out, I had long hair. So what I did, everybody was always used to seeing me with my hair set back. So what I did, I put all my hair down and covered up my face, and I called some friends, some relatives of mine, and I told them where I was at. I was hiding out with some friends that I knew that they were pimps, and they were running. There were some black pimps that I knew. They ran that right over there, right by the LAX airport and everything. And I went ahead and I asked for their help to hide out, and I was hiding out, but it was really hot right there with the cops and everything. I couldn't stay there, so I called a couple of my friends, and they came and picked me up, and they took me downtown, and I went and bought all brand new clothes. They brought me club money. They brought me about $3,000 cash, and I was able to buy like dress clothes because I like dressing in dress clothes like slacks and shiny shoes, and just kind of like I wear suits and stuff like that a lot, so I dress like an Italian. And so I went and got some slacks, some dress shoes and everything. I bought a whole bunch of shirts, a whole bunch of pants and stuff like that, a couple pairs of tennis shoes, and I loaded up a whole briefcase full of clothing. And then and there was a person that I paid him $100, and he took me to the border on a van. So it was kind of like a clandestine under the table kind of like transportation that they do right there in LA. So he took me all the way down to the border for $100. And I got there, crossed over the border, and I went to a hotel and stayed there. And I contacted some relatives there in Tijuana just for a little bit. And then from there, I decided to go ahead and get on the bus and move to San Felipe, which is 2 hours down from south from Mexicali. It's right there, right by the Sea of Cortez. It's a little port city, a little port town, And I was there for about 10 months. I was working security, and I still had money left over. So I was right there hiding out. I reunited with my the mother of my children, and we made plans to go down to Tijuana because she loved me very much, and she wanted to be around me and stuff like that. She knew that I made a mistake, but she was willing to help me, recover some type of normality, And we were there for a little while, and she was working, I was working, and I had a babysitter. It was her family relative. And we ended up going down to to Tijuana because it was closer to San Diego. And I lived in San Diego, and I was a stay-at-home dad taking care of my kids. And she would cross the border and go and work over there, and then come back and forth, back and forth. We did this for a little bit over 5 years, like about 5 years. And I was raising my kids. We ended up having two more kids, which was my daughter. I got one son and three daughters, but at the time we only had my son Robert and my daughter Leilani Abigail. And we ended up having another daughter named Angelina, and then I ended up having another daughter named Destiny. So I have four children with her. And I crossed back into San Diego, just right through the border, with no identification or nothing. I just saw the car, and the border patrol agent just let us pass. And I was living in National City, and I was living right there with her and my mother-in-law, and at some apartments right there in National City. And I was working right over there with where the docks are at. I was working for a company called Janny King. And this company would send you out. It was like an agency that would send you out to different places to go clean and work and stuff like that. And they would pay me like $14.50 an hour. So I stopped selling drugs. I was just working and just doing the family thing and everything and just staying low. And then finally, my brother-in-law, I told my brother-in-law, his name was I'm trying to remember his name right now. I'm sorry. It's been such a while. Well, anyway, her brother, he was working in some other kind of little company and stuff like that. They were business partners, and they kind of got into it. I was telling him like he was kind of like robbing her and stuff like that, and I kind of didn't want to get in it because he was my brother-in-law, and I just said, hey, I had a suggestion, like, why am I struggling to get work and everything when I could work your half of the business and we could just go ahead and do it that way. And, you're pregnant and, you're going to be you're almost going through labor. I'll work for you. And that way we have enough money so when the baby is born. So he had a disagreement about that. And then he started talking bad about me, and he started telling his aunt that I was worth $100,000 according to the reward money, the bulletin that they had over there at Huntington Park Police Department. And he told him that.
This call and your telephone number will be monitored and recorded.
He was a police, what they call those, like the little scouts, those kids that. Those kids, they go right along with the police officers to show them, learn about law enforcement and all of that. Cadet, like a cadet.
Yeah, something along those lines.
Yeah. So he was trying to be a police officer, and Huntington Park had him on a ride along and all of that, and they were telling him, "Oh man, that's your brother-in-law, the one who killed that dude," and he started telling on me. And he was, yeah. And he was able to recover the phone number from my mother and everything and give it to law enforcement. They bugged her and all that and, got her in trouble. She ultimately ended up doing about 20 days in county jail. They put a warrant out for her arrest. I got my mother arrested for aiding and abetting. And finally, when I was over there in San Diego, he had told his aunt, that I was worth $100,000, and she was going through financial problems during 2009 when everybody was losing their houses. And I agreed and everything. Her husband was laid off at the time. She just went ahead and went with it. She went and reported me to the National City Police Department. She sent her compadre, which is her godparent to one of her kids, because I didn't know him. So he went over there and reported me, and they were supposed to split the reward money 50-50. And sure enough, she wanted to stay anonymous. so that nobody in the family would have knew about what she was trying to do. She thought she was slick, and finally, I guess they end up pressuring Francisco Perez, which is her compadre, to where did he get this information from? And he mentioned her, and he subpoenaed her, and she came up with that lie that I threatened him and all that stuff, and she was afraid of me and all that. But in reality, they were just trying to secure a conviction to get the reward money, in which they did get it. You know, the compadre got the money, and he didn't want to split it with her, and they end up having a fight over it. So they're not friends anymore. You know, they don't talk to each other anymore because of that money. They end up losing, you know, friendship over it, which is really funny, you know, out of greed, you know. Yeah.
$100,000. That's life-changing money right there. For some people, that's a lot of money.
For some
That's a lot of
people,
money for some people right there.
for me, it's not really a lot, but I was really mad when I found out all these things. I was really, really mad. I was so mad. I had really ill thoughts for many years about these people and everything. And later on down the line, you know, I had some soul searching, and I changed my my outlook, and I started looking at the positive aspects of forgiveness, so that I wouldn't carry this in my mind, and you know, carrying this around with me like luggage. I said, you know what, let that go. You know, forget about that. What would I do if I got out right now? Would I do something to them? No, I wouldn't do nothing to them. Would I care to argue with anybody that testified against me? No, not at all. Because I took this all bad, these linens, and I made lemonade out of it. I took something bad and I took it and I made something good out of it. The years that I've been here in prison, I got into Buddhism. And Buddhism ultimately helped me get rid of my addictions to drugs, alcohol, and all of that, because I was practicing purity of body and mind. And I had these monks coming in, and they would come and visit and see us in the chapel, and they would meditate with us. So thanks to the prison administration for them providing this service for us, that I was able to learn a different religion that I would have never knew about or even cared to learn about. So I became very immersed in this transformation, and the result was that I ended up kicking all my cravings to vices and stuff like that. I started practicing peace and compassion and love for other people and self-love and everything. And I started seeing a brighter day through these kind of things. I started becoming more peaceful. I started using the prison more like a monastery instead of a prison. And then I got into education. I didn't want to learn nothing from education because I said I never needed it. But once I was involved in the high school diploma program, because back in the day, lifers were at the bottom of the barrel. We were not getting the programs. Everybody in the short terming would get everything. So we were on the bottom of the list. We were not getting nothing. So they started doing this with the CDCR, the CDC, and then they started going with CDCR. Finally, in 2017, they gave me the opportunity to be in the high school and GED, and I said, you know what, I'm going to give it my all. I'm going to pay attention to this. I'm going to learn what I can. I don't know how long it's going to take me to get GED or what, because everything is very slow in prison. But 2 hours every day for 5 days, and finally, 5 years later, from prison to prison, I finally got my GED. I was no mentor. I didn't get no tutor. I mean, no tutor. I stuck to my stubbornness. I said, you know what? I'm gonna be able to get this all by myself. I believe I could do it. I'm smart enough to do this. I could do it. I'm gonna figure it out, and I'm gonna get it without a tutor. Kind of like give myself more brownie points for extra, making it a little bit extra harder for me to do it with nobody's help. And I did, and when I came here to Avenal State Prison, which was 3 years ago, I got my GED about a year ago, It's been a year now that I got my GED, and I feel very proud. I enrolled myself in college, followed by the college, and I went ahead and got into business administration because I want to get back out there and be an investor and a manager of business. So that's why I'm passionate about. That's what I want to do. I want to invest in business, and what better stepping stone than Elias's two gas station, two sales stations with the Circle K, and they got car washes, and they also got the Subway sandwiches a franchise there. So getting out, he
You have 60 seconds remaining.
had a video call with me, and he showed me his business. It's very big and beautiful. He said, "Look, Robert," he said, "when you get out, you're going to be able to work right here with me." He said, "I got all these opportunities right here for you." He said, you don't have to work hard no more. Everything is there. You're just going to walk in here and come and work for me." And it felt really nice to be, I felt, with open arms, and I see how beautiful that business was. And I said, "There goes my future. I'm going to be running that store right there, that big old gas station." I said, "I'm going to be running that. And I'm going to go ahead and make myself a partner with this guy. And I'm going to, I've been knowing him since I was 10 years old. And I think it's..."
This call and your telephone number will be monitored and recorded.
Yeah. So now that I see a plan in place and I see something that's tangible, it's something that it's realistic, that knowing that the love that these people have for me, I don't feel betrayed or nothing like that through them. Actually, it made me into a better person because I was able to give forgiveness for, for things that I would have said back in the day. You know what? Somebody that did something like that, I would have shot them for that. I would have ended their life for that because that's the kind of guy I was. And now that I look at everything, I say, you know what? I'm thankful. I'm thankful because I look at blessings in disguise. I'm thankful for the opportunities that the prison gave me. I'm thankful for, that I'm healthy, that I'm learning things. I'm more mature now, that I have better understanding, that I don't think the same way like I used to think. I'm glad that I got all that anger out of me. And I went to a bunch of groups. I done, numerous types of groups like Narcotics Anonymous, AA, another one called CGA, Criminals and Gang Members Anonymous, where they teach you about criminal mentalities and, kind of why we think the way we think. And, and we have all these extensive type of 12-step programs that we've been doing that now I have a deeper understanding on what made me tick, why I was the way I was. And a lot of the time it's our pride. We don't want to let things go. We look at things that, I got to go confront somebody over this because it's a principle. He might think I'm a softie or I'm a punk or something like that. And you live on these street mentality principles that at the end of the day, when you get here to prison, you start to see that all these things are just a mask that, people put up, as a tough guy, this, that, and I ultimately came to prison, a non-gang member, and ended up joining a prison gang, the South Side or Sureños. I ended up being part of that cart. And, yes, I was doing things right there with them. I was getting high with them. I was holding weapons for them. We're going to the yard, strapped up and stuff like that, and using cell phones inside, and and just moving drugs from one place to another. And we became very active in that lifestyle because you're used to criminality. That's what you think. You don't have no hope. This is it.
This call and your telephone number will be monitored and recorded.
And I'm talking about back in 2010, 11, 12, 13. And there was really no hope. There was nothing that the CDCR was offering us. So I started seeing the backstabbing and all of that from the homies and all of that, and I said, you know what, man, I'm gonna go ahead and get out of there, because what broke my heart was I see my son and my wife and my daughters come to see me, right, at visit. And I see my little son right there, and he was just quiet, and his tears were running down his eyes, and he wouldn't say nothing. And my other daughter grabbed me by the hand, and she seen the door swing open from visit, where the visitors come in through and leave. She's all like, Daddy, come on, just look, the door's open. You can run. You can run. She said, look. She goes, we'll go back to Tijuana. We'll visit you over there. She goes, you look, the door's open. Just run. And I told her, Mama, I can't run. I said, they'll catch me. They'll catch me right away. I said, I can't do that. And she was grabbing me by my hand to try to lead me over there. And then my little daughter, she was maybe about 5 years old, and she said the cutest little thing to me. She said, Daddy, she said, I almost had $100 in my Hello Kitty bank, and when I do have $100, I'm going to break it. I'm going to give it to him. And she pointed towards the card. And she said, I want to give it to him so he can let you go, okay? And I thought that was the sweetest little thing that a little girl could have said to me. And I just felt like, I looked at her and I said, Mija, I said, $100 is not a lot of money. She says, yes, it is. She said, I give it to him and they let you go. I go, no, Mija, where you learn these things? I said, who taught you this, that you could bribe somebody for money? I said, I never taught you that. Where'd you get this from? And I could see the sadness of my wife, and I could see, her right there just feeling drained that, I'm not there, and the kids, just sad, and it broke my heart. And I have this little white handkerchief that I had in my pocket, and I still have it to this day. And I wiped the tears of my kids' eyes, my son and my daughter, and I said, you know what? I swear I promise you guys, and that's my word of a man, that I want to try to do everything I can, everything to get out of prison. I will be back over there with you guys. I promise you guys that I'm going to do everything I can to get out. So I took this little handkerchief with the small little square, and I took it, I folded it up, and I saved it inside my wallet. And I still have it to this day. And that's where my promise was sealed, of my promise that I was going to do the best I can to get out of prison and do everything for them. And that's where my turning point came about. And this was back like in about year 2014, I believe it was. 2014 when I made that promise to her. And I still have that little white handkerchief there. It still has her tears in it. And when I do get out of prison, it's just a matter of time. Because when I do say something, I do promise it and I do come through. But I'm going to go and hand them this little handkerchief, and they're going to tell me, what is this? I'm going to say, promise that I made. It's right here in this handkerchief. It has your guys' tears on that day of the visit. And I made a promise that I was going to get out and I was going to give you guys this back as my promise is complete. And I signed my promise on that. I put my word as a man and everything that I stand for right there on that little handkerchief. And it chokes me up when I think about it still to this day, because it's sad that I had to see the kids that way, But I'll never forget it. And thanks to that feeling, that deep-hearted, sunken-hearted feeling, that I said to myself, what am I doing? I'm always here with these idiots. I'm always getting in trouble. What am I doing? What am I doing? I'm here and my family's suffering. And I just said, I'm going to have to try to do something to turn my life around. And I started doing things. I started, going to groups, and I started trying to do whatever I can, and anything that was available to me, I signed up for it. Yeah.
This call and your telephone number will be monitored.
Man, I would tell them to don't be so quick to be hot-tempered. Don't go use guns as a means to resolve your problems. Don't go becoming confrontational, and don't be petty. Treat people, treat situations as I can let it go now and it won't get big, or I can make something that was small and make it into something real big and get myself in trouble. Because at the end of the day, I would say to any of these kids or anybody out there that it's just a matter of time. You will get caught. It's not good to be running. It's not good to be, you will have everybody turn their backs on you. And then you end up in prison and you have to go through all these trials and these court dates and everything and see your family suffering and seeing your kids crying, your mother crying, seeing the victim's family crying for a stupid mistake that you did because you were mad or because you felt disrespected or because, you thought that was the best way to handle your business because you thought you were a tough guy. When you're in prison, nobody cares how tough you are. And if you think you're tough, they're going to use you in here as a tool. Hey, come over here, little homie. Here's a knife. Go put that in there, guy, because you really think you're tough. There is no such thing. We don't care how tough you think you are in here. That don't matter. There's so many of us in here that are in here for the same thing. And everybody is always left with regret. They regret every single thing they've done. They regret joining the gangs. They regret putting on the tattoos. And guess what? Your enemies that you were shooting at, they become your friends in here. You were shooting at people out there and you come to prison and you end up eating with them and being your friends with them. And you're over here doing life in prison, going through packages, you're sleeping on a hard bed, eating soups, missing your family, calling them, living off of them, asking them for, food, asking them for money every month, and becoming a financial burden to them. And you feel helpless when they need something. You can't do nothing for them. That you could have been out there to provide for them or to give them that moral support, whatever they needed. And you can't. Your kids are growing up without you. Your mother's getting older, and you're not able to hug her and see her. So a lot of my friends in here, their mothers die. And it's really sad to see them right there sitting on a bunk, not even able to go to their funeral, crying right there. They're feeling disappointed because they failed them. And it's a real sad thing to have waste your life and your potential because you want to be out there being tough and running around smoking drugs and being disobedient and, and always just trying to be against the law. Find yourself education, a nice vocation. You're having trouble. You could get a vocation in 6 months and become certified and get a job that will pay you $35 an hour starting, an electrician job, HVAC job, something, a welding, something that could give you that little stepping stone. Provide, make opportunities for yourself. Don't wait for anybody to give them to you, but make them for yourself. Work hard for them and take pride. Because the harder you work for yourself, the more you're going to enjoy them. You'll take pride in them. And you'll also be a respectful member of society. People will look up to you and see that, you know what? I like what he got going on. He's a good person. Just always try to do your best. And no matter if you fail, get back up and do it again. That's what I could say for them. And please don't come to prison. This is not a place. This is a waste of time. Prison is not what you think it is. It's not a fun place to be.
I want to go ahead and thank you so much, sir, for allowing me to be able to share your story. I'm going to be honest with you. This is the first time in a long time that I've been moved, emotionally by this story, man, especially when you mentioned your kids. That almost got me right there, for real. That almost got me right there.
Yeah.
You did a very good job painting
one.
your story, man. I'm terribly sorry for what you're going through, man. But I really want you to come on for a part 2, my friend. But again, thank you so much, sir. And